Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking about the Chicago White Sox, who are currently on the worst stretch of baseball in their history after having the worst stretch of baseball in their history already earlier this season with a 14-game losing streak, now up to 20, looking to break that tonight against the Athletics. Well, in this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the Miami Dolphins. We're continuing our series talking about every single NFL team, giving them a preview of their upcoming NFL season, a review of their offseason, giving them a grade. We're going to give the Dolphins an offseason grade in this segment, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, who have had a very interesting offseason. At the beginning of it, you could sit here and tell me, hey, they have been kind of cheap this offseason, right? You take a look at this Miami Dolphins team that felt like they were kind of close to a Super Bowl last year, felt like they were kind of close to being contenders. Obviously, that offense was electric. They kind of fell off down the stretch of the season, half because of injuries, half because of play. I think maybe a little more because of injuries than play. I feel like half is a little unfair there, but this is a Dolphins team that is really good, right? And what they did this offseason is interesting, right? They let a lot of their guys walk, especially defensively. Letting guys like Christian Wilkins go, letting guys like Robert Hunt go, letting guys, those two signed huge, massive contracts. Robert Hunt is a huge part of that offensive line, an offensive line that's very important to what they need to be successful, right? This is a Dolphins team whose biggest concern heading into last season was the health of their quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, right? And now they're letting the offensive line get weaker, putting Tua back in a situation where he might get hurt again, and that would throw their season completely under the bus. Christian Wilkins is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He's a big space eater, he's fast, he's athletic, and he knows how to rush the quarterback. The Raiders go out and grab him. That is a huge get for them. Also losing other parts of the defense that really sucks. The linebacker core especially is going to get stripped, losing Jerome Baker, who I really loved, Andrew Van Ginkel, who I really loved, and the corners, Xavier Howard, who was up, hasn't been the same since he got hurt, but still shows flashes of that special corner that he was when he signed his massive contract, is gone as well. Now, you still do have Jalen Ramsey at the other corner, and you went out and you added guys like Kendall Fuller to go and fix that, but the pass rush is going to be a lot weaker, losing guys like Christian Wilkins, like Andrew Van Ginkel, like Jerome Baker. You are going to get, you are going to get guys like Jalen Phillips back, who before his torn ACL was being talked about as one of the best pass rushers in the league, which I think is a little much right now. But you're also going to get Bradley Chubb back. That pass rush is going to get better. If this defense can stay healthy, it's solid, right? Their draft class wasn't the greatest. They went out in their first round and drafted Chop Robinson out of Penn State. I didn't love him. He's athletic. He's got great bend, but, he easily gets out-muscled. And if he's getting out-muscled in college, I can't really imagine how badly he's going to get out-muscled in the NFL unless he's really able to put on weight like that and really get in the weight room and try and fix that. So this wasn't a very special draft class, but like I said, they started being a little cheap. They go out and they start spending recently. They give Tua a massive contract, $53.1 million a year. They give Tyreek Hill a massive contract over the weekend, not an extension, but just, more money to keep him happy, keep him there, your number one weapon, your big speed guy. And this is a team that has the offensive engine. The question is, did they improve? And it's hard to judge this Dolphins team because they left a bad taste in your mouth. The beginning of their season was great. And it's also hard to judge this Dolphins team because they were great against bad teams. They weren't great against good teams. And, they really started to falter down the end of the season when they started to play a harder schedule, and also when injuries started piling up at the same time. So it's hard for me to sit here and say, hey, this is a Dolphins team that cannot play good teams. This is a Dolphins team, or to sit here and say, hey, this is a Dolphin team that looks like they can't play bad teams because of the injuries that they suffered last season. This is a it's a tough team to take a look at. I'm a little higher on the Dolphins than I think a lot of people are. Right now, their Vegas win total is set to 9.5. The Bills was at 10.5, and I was lower on the Bills than a lot of people were. Excuse me. But if they can stay healthy, I think this team is going to be really good. I think their offseason, while they did lose a lot of headliners, and the loss of and having Shaq Barrett retire does not help. He was expected to really help that pass rush out, but they have a lot of weapons in the pass rush, right? This is a team that I do believe can still be really good, and I do believe in Mike McDaniel and his offense. I'm just not sure if this is a Super Bowl level team or not. The offseason, as far as this offseason goes, I'm going to give them a C, a solid C. I didn't love their draft, and I think I could have bumped this up if they had a good draft. I think their acquisitions, they got cheaper, and I think that's a good thing. Adding a guy like Kendall Fuller at corner, Jonnu Smith, they needed a nice tight end that could, play, that could block and catch. They didn't really have that last season. Odell Beckham Jr. comes in. I'm not sure how healthy he's going to be, but he's not going to be your big offensive weapon. So having him as a wide receiver 3, I think, is fine. The offensive line takes a big hit, and that's where they lose the most amount of points, right? This is an offensive line that went from having some of the best interior guys to Isaiah Wynn, Aaron Brewer, and Robert Jones on the inside. Now, they still have Teron Armstead, who is awesome, right? But he's not enough for this offensive line, to be completely honest with you. This is a team that this is a boomer bust team. As we saw with the Mike McDaniel team last year, it's a boomer bust team, and I don't expect that to change. We'll take a look at their schedule. I'm giving them a C. We're going to take a quick break here, come back, take a look at their schedule, see what we can give them as far as a record going. Again, their Vegas line is set to 9.5. We'll see if I have an over or an under here. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you were just tuning in, we just went over the Dolphins and their offseason. I gave them an offseason grade of a C. I think the overpay of Tua is a big part of this. Their draft wasn't great, but they did a good job getting cheaper and basically staying the same outside of the offensive line, which I think might cause some trouble. So I gave them a C here. Not great, not awful either. In this segment, we're going to go over the Dolphins. We're going to go over the Dolphins' schedule. We're going to give them a record, see if they'll get past that 9.5 win total that is set for them by Vegas. See if I have them in the playoffs. So stick around for that. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. Appreciate everybody for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the Miami Dolphins and their schedule prediction. So this is an interesting Miami Dolphins schedule, right? This is not a super tough schedule. They have their bye week in week 6. But all of their tough opponents, I won't say all, but most of their tough opponents outside of division are tucked at the very end of their schedule. The beginning of their schedule, they only play one playoff team from last season, all the way up until all the way up until week 12. They only play 3 games against teams that made the playoffs last year, and 2 of those are against the Bills in their division, right? They get the Bills twice and the Rams. So through week 12, they're only playing kind of bad teams. Then week 13 on through week 18, all but 2 of those games are against teams that made the playoffs. And the 2 games that are the teams that didn't make the playoffs are the Jets that now have Aaron Rodgers. So you can kind of throw them in that same conversation. So week 1 to 12, you play 3 games against playoff teams. And weeks 13 to 18, you play 4 out of 6. So this is a packed schedule at the end. That means the Dolphins need to start off strong if they want to make a difference in this AFC race. An AFC race that if they don't win this division, which is a tough division, it is not easy to make this wild card. This is a stacked AFC. We've talked about that a lot. There's only a couple of teams that I can sit here and say comfortably, I know for a fact will not make the playoffs. Handful, less than 4 of them, I can sit here and say we're 100% certain that they are not going to make the playoffs. So starting off here with the Dolphins in week 1. They take on the Jaguars. The Jaguars are a team that just paid Trevor Lawrence, right? Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback I really believe in, but I think this is a Dolphins team that is going to be back and healthy, and I think they'll be able to take care of business against the Jaguars in week 1. Starting off strong, week 2 against the Bills. This is another tough opponent. Josh Allen that's in Miami. I think because it's in Miami, we're going to give a win to the Dolphins here as well. Excuse me. As we turn the corner to week 3, the Dolphins head all the way up to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The Seahawks who I think are going to be kind of a litmus test for a lot of teams. I think they'll beat the bad teams, beat the bad teams, lose to the good teams. I'm giving the Dolphins the benefit of the doubt here, having the Seahawks lose here in week 3. They start off strong, 3-0. Then they head over to the Titans, and Will Levis, at that point, DeAndre Hopkins will be back. Will Levis showed a lot of flashes. Obviously, last year in this matchup, the Titans came back from down 14 with just about 2 minutes to go, end up beating the Dolphins and kind of sending their season into a downward spiral. I think the Dolphins get some revenge here, beat the Titans in week 4, start off 4-0, the hottest start that we have so far in our predictions. Week 5 in Foxborough, against the Patriots, the Dolphins continue rolling. They hit their week 6 bye at 5-0. Everything is going great for the Dolphins. Tua is playing great. The offensive line is holding up, but they haven't really played too many contenders. We talked about I'm not a huge believer in the Bills this season. They get maybe their toughest test of the whole season coming off the bye week, and I think coming off the bye week really does help here. They get the Colts, and again, the Colts. Calling the Colts the biggest test of the season so far kind of tells you what kind of schedule that they've had so far. Not super tough. I think they take care of business against the Colts. Again, I really like this Colts team, but I find myself continuing to give them losses here as we're doing predictions this whole season. The Colts are going to lose this game. The Dolphins improve to 6-0 on the season. Then they host the Cardinals. The Cardinals, again, not the toughest team. I'm giving the Dolphins a win here. After week 8, they're 7-0, the last undefeated team remaining in the NFL. They're still going. The Bills in week 9. That is up in Buffalo. It's not too late in the season. I think that the Dolphins are going to take care of business here. They're up to 8-0. Don't look now. 8 wins already. They haven't lost a game. Can they join the Dolphins Can they be the second undefeated team? The only other team was those 72 Dolphins. Can they keep this up? Week 10 against the Rams. Matthew Stafford all the way out in LA. I think the Dolphins get this done as well. They've made it through all of the former playoff teams. The Bills twice and the Rams here through the first 10 weeks of the season. Then they get 2 more teams before it really starts to get tough. Like I said, those last 7 weeks of the season are going to be brutal for them. Week 11 against the Raiders, take care of business. They're gonna handle Vegas there as Vegas comes down to Miami. They're 10-0 now. Then they get the Patriots, and they're starting to sweat a little bit. Coming up after the Patriots, you have the death schedule. And I tell you, people have been talking a lot this offseason about how tough the Steelers schedule is down the stretch. It's nothing compared to this Dolphins schedule. This Dolphins schedule down the stretch, we'll get to it once we get through this Patriots game, but it's ridiculously hard. And I think that the Patriots have a tendency to win down in Miami. So I'm going to give the Patriots a win here, ending the dreams of an undefeated season for the Dolphins. But they start off 10-0. 10-1 is a great place to be heading into week 13. And I just want to read out the rest of this schedule for you guys. Week 13 at the Packers in Green Bay. Week 14 hosts the Jets. Week 15 at the Texans in Houston. Week 16, hosting the 49ers. Week 17, up in Cleveland, taking on the Browns. And closing out the season, Week 18 in New York against the Jets. That is brutal. That is incredibly tough. Not an easy stretch of schedule. Lucky for them, they're 10-1. They've all but clinched a playoff spot here. It's not 100%, but 10 wins should get them in. Again, this is a tough AFC, but 10 wins should get it done. They start off against the Packers in Lambeau. I'm giving this win to the Dolphins. They rebound from a tough loss against division opponent, the Patriots, and they're feeling good. They start off that stretch good. They got 5 games left. They're 11-1. Running high on momentum, and then I think it comes crashing down. Game 1 against the Jets, that's a loss. Then these last 5. Game 1 at home against the Jets, they're going to lose that one. Then they travel to Houston against the Texans, another loss. CJ Stroud takes down Tua and the Dolphins. Then they host the 49ers, the juggernaut that is the 49ers. You probably have a battle between these 2 guys that are fighting for the offensive player in the year in Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey. The Dolphins lose to the 49ers here. Week 17 against the Browns. What's really going to hurt is that offensive line getting a lot worse when you have Myles Garrett coming off the edge against you. That is a loss. Close out the season against the Jets on the road, a game that the Jets need more than the Dolphins do, maybe even for the division here. I'm taking the Jets. The Dolphins, after starting so hot, 10 straight wins to begin the season, lose their last 5, kind of like they were limping into the playoffs. I do have them making the playoffs here at 11-6, but limping into it after what really is a super brutal schedule. I really am serious when I say that this is the most brutal end of the schedule that any team in the NFL has. I can't imagine it gets much harder. Maybe you throw the Chiefs in there, and that's the only way that it gets harder, but it's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. We'll see if they can rebound. It is going to be, this is a good season. Like I said, I believe in the Dolphins. And I think this collapse down the stretch of the season is going to be more because of the matchups rather than their team. This is a team that's not going to beat the allegations of only being able to play against bad teams, unfortunately. And as much as I want to give them the benefit of the doubt here, I can't do it. That is such a tough schedule, and this Dolphins team isn't built to go 16-1. This Dolphins team isn't built to go 17-0. It's a really good team. The offense is great. The defense is really good, actually. But it's just not quite built to go the distance here. Maybe they can make some noise in the playoffs. It's a disappointing end to the season, but finishing 11-6, going over that 9.5 win total, I think is very achievable for this team. And also, I could see them winning anywhere from 10 to 12 games. I kind of packed the front of their schedule with a lot of wins. They could lose one in there, win one down the stretch, make it not look as collapsy. But this is a really, really tough end of the schedule for the Dolphins. And I'm not going to, and as if this plays out the way that I see it playing out, I don't blame them for, losing all these games down the stretch. It's just going to be a tough, tough battle. And it's especially having an early bye like that, having to go against all those teams, it's not going to be easy. But anyway, let me know what you think of the Dolphins schedule. I have them going 11-6. I gave them a C for their offseason grade. This is going to be a good team. It really is going to be a good team. But like I said, let me know what you think. Tomorrow, we're going to pick a new team. We're going to go over those Jets that are going to battle with the Dolphins for this division. We'll go over any other major story that's going on in the world of sports. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, for everything, for anything going on in the world of sports. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you then. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Let's go.